I'll introduce it. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. And tonight we're going to talk about ghosts, and we'd like to hear your experiences too as we talk through this. And Joan and I will try to give you some idea about what we think ghosts are, and are they real, and so on, and the difference between ghosts and spirits and things like this. You had someone give you a picture today, didn't you, Jane?
Yes, I had a neighbour that was walking her dogs at 6 o'clock this morning in our woods, and she suddenly saw a green orb. She caught it in the corner of her eye, and so she took a photo of it, and it was really beautiful. It wasn't any dust in the filter of her camera, anything, and it was bright green, and it had like a bright white light round it, green in the centre.
So I've not seen that yet, so I can't comment on it. But I usually think orbs are, personally, I always think orbs are kind of either water on the lens or dust on the lens, because it gets very close up. There's not much rain out there today, I must say. It's not particularly dusty.
No, that's definitely. You could say it could either be somebody communicating to her from the spirit realm, or it could be a nature spirit,
or else it could be a photo anomaly. But actually, there's a good video on there by Domenico. If you look at the Italian dad site, where Domenico's been looking at some of the ghost pictures from the past, and on this channel too. So there's a lot of ghost stuff, particularly about photos and things like that. So, what do you think ghosts are, Jane?
Oh, wait a minute. There's two ladies coming on site here. There's an Audrey and a Joan. They're twins. They're both 90. They're isolating, and they're staying at home with their parents.
Didn't quite follow that. My brain was going in another direction.
You look shocked.
Okay, ghosts. Right, let's talk about ghosts proper. Now, there's a lot of misconceptions out there, in my opinion, about what ghosts are and aren't. You know, because I mean, you've got all these entertainment-based TV shows about ghosts, and they're just entertainment. And although the mediums claim to be mediums, I personally have very high doubts about some of it. And because, you know, a ghost, what is it? There's one theory that was put forward. I'm not sure quite who put it forward, actually. I should get my facts for this, but I think it was the idea of the stone recording idea, that ghosts are not an actual spirit, but they're like a video recording that's kind of in the network of an environment, a building or something like that. So if a lot of bad things have happened there, there's a residual energy, and that's kind of recently been more bandied around, but they used to call it I think it was called the stone recording, stone video. So it's recorded in stone, and it gives the energy of, I'll do that in a minute. It gives the energy of the things that happened in the past. So for example, in a circle, I will teach people psychometry, where you hold an object and you talk about the vibrations on that object, right? And when you do that, you're picking up quite a lot of information. You pick up all the information about the owners of that object. So couldn't it also be the case that on a bigger scale, psychometry could happen in certain places where you pick up on all the people that have been there, and if you kind of see things rather than just sense things, that you might actually see what is a video recording of things that happened before, and perhaps could call that a ghost?
I'd call that past lives.
Well, that could be there too, but past things that had happened there in the past.
I have actually seen a ghost. I've actually seen one come into the sitting room and actually build up. And actually, my brother saw it at the same time, Patrick.
Oh, yeah, I heard it. I remember that. You're talking about that, yeah.
No, and it actually shot up. When you're not expecting these things, they happen very quickly. And it went through the French doors. And first of all, I was a doubting Thomas, thinking it was somebody's car lights from the road, but it wasn't. And it suddenly built up, and it was like a cloak form. And Patrick went absolutely ashen white. It looked like a monk. And it went shot through the door.
Didn't he go to church or something after? He did something after.
Yeah, he was so frightened. And he's not a churchy person. He suddenly going to church because he thought it was something that was going to take him over. It was laughable, really, but it was very real.
And we've had other strange things happen here too, haven't we? With your mum that time. When
Yes, shall I say
Yeah,
that?
go on, you tell them.
Well, my mother is in her 90s, and she's got a room here. She's a very independent lady. She's got her own bungalow. She lives near Norfolk. And she went to bed, and one night was just cooking in the kitchen, making something for the next day. And she came downstairs and said, "Jane, there's a happening." I said, "A happening?" She said, "I was laying in bed and I froze." She said, "The sheets turned one by one and rolled down and the bed shook." She said, "I was so frightened to turn around. I laid there, I thought I was going to have a heart attack." She had a gush of wind came in. She said, "Could I sleep on the settee tonight?" And the next day, what was interesting, we had to take her back and go through the Hatfield tunnel, and somebody's exhaust came off the back of the car. Do you remember that? And suddenly, everything went in slow motion, and we were in your other car, was that BMW? And suddenly, the car, I could see like these rays of light. There were sort of what I call spirit lights of rays, came through the car. And then the car moved slowly by itself over the other side of the road. And all my mother was thinking about was her bread and carrots to get out of the car. Because she said, "Get out quick." And I think that was something that happened by her late husband trying to give her a sign.
Yeah, well, who knows? I mean, we've both had all sorts of strange encounters with ghosts. I mean, I think that's one of the strangest ones I ever had. I used to write a column for the Portsmouth Evening News. Portsmouth News, and one person was a psychiatrist that wrote to me, off not for the column, but said, "Would I could I help her with one of her subjects, because she was having what she thought were probably hallucinations, and they thought there was a ghost at this place because she believed the house was built on an old gypsy graveyard." So I said, "All right, I'll come along with you, and I'll, if it's psychological, it's psychological. But if not, please be open-minded. That I'll do a connection with her and see if we can feel something there and pick anything up and get some confirmation." Well, when we got to the door, we were having this sort of conversation in the car on the way there, and the psychiatrist, there was a female psychiatrist. We got to the door, and the woman opened the door, and as we opened the door, this mist came out from beneath, along the floor and out of the house. It wasn't a kettle left on or anything like that. There was this steam moving across the floor, and you should see the face of the psychiatrist. She absolutely went ashen white. And afterwards, I did do a connection with her and was able to do quite a lot of proofs and things to give proof of a spirit that had lived there before that we were able to check up on and find out. So there was kind of an active spirit there. Now, we're going to take some of your questions later on, so keep sending them in. Domenico's going to put them on a screen here for us. Have you got any other interesting ghost stories?
I think the volume's a bit loud. It's come across, I'm trying to tell you, but you...
Yeah, but I can't change the volume. You talk to them, tell them a story. Don't touch that yet.
Right. Another ghost story, which is true. We were asked to go on a haunted boat, and this was an old tugboat that these two people lived on. And it's quite a misty night, and I went with other mediums and Craig, and we had to row to this boat. And as we literally walked on the plank of this boat, it was quite a damp night, and it was a
real spooky scene, wasn't it?
There was a piano teacher that lived on there, and to get a piano on this boat, her husband had chopped the legs off, and she was saying once again that the sheets were turning down at the end of her bed at night. And we had to do what you call a seance there in a clearing. And suddenly we're sitting in this boat and there's all just candles lit. And suddenly we all sensed something hit us on the head. There was nobody possibly could have done it. And there was keys moving around.
We had things moving across, full poltergeist activity there. Joan's not given the full details of this.
And and then the woman was, I'm losing my thread now. The woman was sat round the table. And there's an old superstition that women aren't allowed on boats because it's an old fisherman's boat, tugboat. And each of us felt something hit our head like an axe.
Simultaneously, we
Yeah.
felt we were there with a trance medium that was doing some trance, and she'd asked us to accompany her there.
Say a prayer.
And as we went with this was done through the spiritualist church, so they were trying to find out what was happening. And so some weird stuff was happening from the minute we stepped. When this boat is moored out in the water, and it was all a spooky, dark scene. You can imagine it. And inside, it was kind of odd because, like Jane said, she wanted to play the piano. Obviously, she didn't want to be on the boat and thought, I can't play my piano on the boat. So the husband had nailed it into the actual front of the boat so that it moved with the boat, totally out of tune. But we all simultaneously, when we were tuning in, we all simultaneously felt something hit us behind the head. And our conclusion was that there'd been a murder on there, and that the person had been killed, hit from behind with axe. We all said the same thing at the same time, you know. But we didn't get confirmation of that, did we, through the records?
Well, you never know. And apparently it frightened this woman so much and her husband that they actually sold the boat, didn't they?
Yeah. And so we'll take a few questions now then, because we've got a few here. Domenico's working with us and is on there at the moment, helping us by posting some of your questions up here. So let's have a look what we got here. So we do the first one then. Yeah. Elizabeth Harris. Okay, you just put one on earlier, Elizabeth. Says, my friend just died and came to my house. She rang by the ring doorbell. I have video if you'd like to see them. She came by 6 times the night she passed.
Oh, yes, I've heard that.
It's what, doorbells ringing?
Yeah, I have. That it's like it goes back to like the Victorian times when they used to put bells in the grave and the dead used to ring the bells. That I've heard that people come back and ring doorbells.
And also sometimes people talk about getting phone messages. I mean, when my dad died, and this is more of a spirit rather than the ghost we're talking about here. When my dad died, all of the telephones and everybody's telephone was when the dad died, wasn't it? Was it really wrong?
Yeah. We were all in, it was 2:00 in the afternoon. I was in my beach hut and with my parents just preparing things. And everybody's mobile phone rung at 2:00, and that's precisely the time we passed.
With a fake call, but all at once, simultaneously, you know. And that was a weird thing. And my nan, when her son died, Gordon, the clock stopped immediately after he died. I think it was 8:00 or whatever it was, but it stopped exactly when he died. She was shook by that. But then every year after that, at the anniversary of his death, the clock would stop at exactly the same time. I mean, there's a weird thing. And that's more like a spirit communication. I wouldn't call that a ghost as such, but that's more like a spirit communication. But yeah, there's some pretty strange things out there. And I expect some of you have had clocks stop and things like that.
Mostly it's 1:00 or 4:00.
So John McDonald says, can ghosts harm in any way, or are most friendly and wish us or me peace from John? Peace from John. Okay, yeah, okay.
It depends on the ghost.
Yeah, and thanks, John. I know you've been a patron for some time too, and I'm grateful to all of you here that are patrons on the site. And you know, I'll answer all your questions on the patron site, or those that have any other further questions. I don't really
believe that ghosts can harm us. It's the living that we have to worry about.
Yeah, so how would a ghost harm you? See, I say that a ghost, there's a difference. There's a ghost and a spirit. A spirit goes to the spirit world. A ghost is the residual energy here. Okay, but then there's other things people can talk about. They also talk about things like astral shells. Some people talk about that is that when the spirit leaves, it leaves behind a sort of a residue itself that was help connecting the spirit to the human body. A sort of a walking spiritual zombie, as it were. It's not fully conscious, but it just moves around. They believe this. Well, this is really, it's talked about it in California and places, but it does originate from Eastern ideas. The idea that the Tibetans had of an idea of what they call a tulpa, which is like an animated thought form. And that would use an astral shell. So some people think that a ghost could be that. So how could a ghost harm you? I mean, I can't see how it could harm you. You can't get 2 spirits in the one body. my spirit is controlling this body. Someone else's spirit can't control it.
I might be able
You
to.
may try.
I might be able to. Just
You may try.
hang in there.
But we're in control of ourselves. I think the only thing is fear. People have fear.
Yeah, it's fear of the unknown, isn't it? Because what's happening, fear of the unknown, because people are frightened to death sometimes how they die, aren't they?
Yeah. And of course, then there's possession, because people talk about possession. And in most cases, that does seem to be more of a psychological type thing, particularly when you look at the Many Faces of Eve, for example. If you've read the book about that or seen
all this voodoo
movies.
things, they go into trance, don't they?
Yeah, so there's a lot of psychological stuff with this as well, isn't there? With the whole concept of ghosts.
There are masters and gurus that can go in trance, Craig.
Well, yeah, that's true. But I'm talking about possession.
Well, some of them might be.
Yeah, but some people are possessed, but possessed by what? So, in Tibet, for example, they'll be entranced by the spirit of the mountain or something, or or a person might be possessed by a spirit of another person. I've not witnessed it. Have you ever seen anything of a possession?
I have seen possession, yes, but then I was a psychiatric nurse, and you had loads of people that used to be possessed, frothing at the mouth, having a fit, and talking in tongue, a different language, in Old English. I have seen that. Yeah,
I suppose I've seen that type of thing, but you saw a lot of that because, like you say, Jane was a psychiatric nurse for a long time.
Comes in useful.
Yeah. So there's some interesting issues there. If you've got any comments, leave them now. But also, when this video goes back out there again, and it's on it's, you have another look again and put some more comments, and we'll comment on the comments, as it were. If you've got any ideas or some stories, just come back and put it on the video once it's gone from live to a processed video. Okay, India Burke. What about visitation, when they just stand there and stare at you? A personalized message. So
and read that underneath. You're not taking any notice. Turn off the volume.
It is off. Yeah. So what about a visitation as such?
What are we talking about visitation? Are we talking about angels, or are we talking about humans that have passed?
Well, when they just stand there. So a visitation would be, I would say that a visitation is a visit from spirit.
Yes.
And one of the most interesting ones I remember was my dad. Now, my dad was quite a skeptical sort of man in a way. He was kind of open on one level, but he was quite... he's always been a school teacher, and he had a kind of a lawyer's sort of mind almost. And it took a lot to convince him of something. He's not an irrational sort of man. And when my nan died, he saw my nan stood in the room at the bottom of the bed. And Nan told him something about his business that nobody knew about. And it kind of seemed strange. And he thought, is that coming from me or was that her? But the most important thing about it was Nan was all in this brilliant pink colour. And he couldn't, he thought, why is he in pink? Well, then he saw my Auntie Brenda later. And my Auntie Brenda said to him, I've just been to see Nan in the morgue and she's laid out there. She looks absolutely beautiful. They dressed her up in a brilliant, beautiful pink shroud. Now, you'd always think a shroud would be white, wouldn't you? I'd always think of a shroud as white. And yet that, for my dad, was a proof and a visitation. And the message she said about his business actually came true. I won't go into detail because it involved a lot of lawyers and things like that. But it was true, and he found out things he never knew about. So she not only was a visitation as such, but also with a very poignant message. And I think these often come particularly when someone's just passed.
Angela.
I'll read it out and you can do the answer. Angel love. After my son died in 2001, his presence was with me for a long time. Why can't I hear him anymore? Has he upgraded his level? Well, upgraded his level.
Well, does she mean as he moved on? Or does she mean, is he in a different place?
Well, she's saying, has he moved on in the spirit world? Because, the spirit world, we talk sometimes about multiple levels on the spirit world,
And 7 astral planes.
different planes of existence. It's not just one world, but many.
Well, it's interesting that he's with his mother for quite a while, and she can't hear him anymore, his voice. That's very comforting, isn't it, to actually hear him?
Yeah. So I think what she's saying here is that she felt you felt you were in contact with your son, didn't you? And we're not doing mediumship on these ones. We will do those later on just for patrons. But we are, the son has obviously passed into spirit. She's felt a connection with him, felt she could hear him through, however you hear him, perhaps internally, perhaps you did hear his voice or felt his presence. And I don't think, he would have moved on and not be able to be in touch with you, because any of the people that move into the higher planes of spirit can always come down to the lower ones. The lower ones can't ascend to the higher, so those that are pushed into the lower worlds remain there, but those in the higher levels can move down to the earth plane if they want to. So this is kind of beliefs here we're talking about, but most kind of spiritualists and spiritism and various other type of systems that believe in mediums, we all kind of agree that there is multiple worlds, not just one spirit world, but it goes on and on and on into many levels, and negative lower levels as well.
Sometimes a spirit could be trapped between the two worlds.
Well, this is another question that people worry about, isn't it? Does the spirit get trapped? I've not encountered that really. I think a lot of that is people fantasizing. A lot of people, they say, oh, I've just lost my son, or I've lost my husband, or something like that, and we're worried he might be trapped, he might not have crossed over. But
you can understand.
I can understand the psychology of it, because people worry, has he got safely there?
Because it's very, very upsetting if you lose somebody and you're wondering, where do we go? It is very worrying, isn't it?
Of course it is, yeah.
And if you love somebody unconditionally, you would worry, where do they go? Because you can't just come here on the material world and that's it. Because at the moment, the planet, nature's coming back and bringing all lovely animals back, and we haven't got the pollution like we had.
But the fact is, the spirit crosses over and goes straight into the spirit world.
It's in a better place.
They go straight to the spirit world, whatever person's like. Good and bad, the spirit world is there for all. Nobody, it's not, for some and not for others. It's not a place. There's a lot of religious propaganda around the whole idea of the afterlife. And no, all spirits continue. Everything, all life survives. All conscious life survives. Okay, let's try another one. Dylan Watson, does the mainstream media try to debunk these ghost stories?
Yeah, of course they do.
Well, they can't, but they don't believe in it. It makes a good story for the newspapers or the telly, don't it? They love to have an old ghost story because it's scary. And most people are intrigued by the idea of ghosts because in a symbolic way, they represent fear of death, don't they? They represent death. They represent fear. So that's why it's always got an appeal to the newspapers.
Sometimes think unfinished business on the earth, don't they? And they worry about it. And there are good ghost stories going back to the 17th century, or, people see black dogs and things like that, isn't there? And where we live, there's meant to be a headless highwayman riding down Anton Lane.
Yeah. So is that just stories?
I've never seen them. Have you?
Well, you see, the thing is, sometimes with these urban myths, as it were, you'll get a story and one person will tell it, and then a newspaper will report it or something, and then it'll become a story, and then people will start fantasizing about it. And actually, was it ever a sighting there in the first place, or was it just people sort of like a mass hysteria? So I think it's very difficult to distinguish often between which are what I suppose are like urban myths, I suppose I called it, or the real thing. And of course, as soon as you get people going into places and they start getting stories. For example, we went to Athelstan House with the BBC, and I was just been doing some little edits for that recently, some old stuff. And the Athelstan House, we didn't know where we were actually, because we were just given this address we'd taken there and we didn't know anything about it. But another medium had been there and been on television and done a lot of things there and started eking around like a monkey, apparently.
It's meant to be an
And
incarcerated monkey.
so there was a story that there was a monkey that haunted the
It's a
place.
red
And
herring.
none of us felt anything like that when we were there. And apparently it was a made-up story. And the woman that owned the place knew that her father had made that story up to scare the kids and put it on the website. And this particular medium had looked it up on the website and then started jumping around like a monkey. So, you know, when it comes to entertainment television, I think you've got to be very, very careful because,
we
you know.
did have activity there, though, didn't we, ourselves?
What not to say the place didn't have spirits. I mean, we certainly felt stuff around there, didn't we?
Yeah.
But not to the point where you're dropping into trance and eking like a monkey. Might it make more better television?
Well, we were sleeping on this four-poster bed. It must have been 200 years old. Unless you jumped on it, all the dust and all the particles went to the ceiling.
Yeah, it was
and
really.
it looked quite spooky. And they had a chapel that adjoined to the room where they had old-fashioned knight's armour on. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Real spooky.
And it was funny because I was taking my circle there. So that was the idea of the program was I was training a circle to become mediums, and part of the training was to take them going ghost hunting. And poor Christine, who was with us, had to sleep in this room where
You
I think
frightened her.
where they hung people in there or something.
Really.
And I said there was nothing to worry about, Christine. You just lay on that bed and it'll probably be in the exact position where they laid the corpses out. You might even get that sensation of them superimposing. She couldn't sleep.
Well, I think that was wrong of you doing that.
I know, but it was
You
an
frightened
entertainment.
all these young
thing.
girls, and you're sitting up all night by a log fire, and a log shot out from the fire, obviously because it just was hot, and they screamed. I walked across the landing to go to the toilet, and I had a white dressing gown, nightie on, and they thought I was the Grey Lady.
Yeah. There's some funny events. And I remember saying, oh, there's no such thing as orbs. I was going on about, you know, like I just said earlier on about orbs are probably a camera phenomena. And then they took a few photographs. And as I'm saying it, what is it? But I'm surrounded by hundreds of orbs as I'm saying that, wasn't it? Very strange. Try another one, shall we? So Zoe says, what are ghosts? And we kind of mentioned that already, haven't we? You got anything?
Oh, well, I'm trying to look at it because you're running ahead.
So that's what we got to. Okay, we're doing the next one then. Derek McIntyre. I know I have one around me. Just want to know how to make contact.
Well, you really need a medium to do that, don't you?
I mean, people.
Not that easy.
You see, people say I want to make contact with a ghost, right? But when I connect as a medium, I connect inwardly. I sense them. I feel it like a connection of my thoughts with theirs. And there's no spookiness with it. I mean, I'm protected by my spirit guides, and I'm sure it works the same with you, Jane, doesn't it?
You think of a radio and the alpha waves, and you're connecting from the atmosphere and the energy, and then you feel them, sense them, and then you can hear them, clairsentience, and I feel them in my solar plexus here. That's how it works for me.
Yeah, it's a mental blending, so it's a tuning in. So doing things like using equipment to try to do it don't work. Using Ouija boards, well, that's a whole new topic. I could talk about that as well.
Do that next time.
Yeah, kind of dodgy because it picks up thoughts more than the spirits. So the only real way to make a connection is to open yourself up to the spirit world, and that involves training to become a medium, which is not a 5-minute job. That is something that takes years and years of work. And the way to do that is to sit in a development circle, which is a spiritualist thing usually, and it's best to do that through spiritualism, I would suggest.
And you need to have a very experienced medium, so her guide or his guide, the doorkeepers, and that can allow that to come through. Otherwise, people just using tarot cards and pretending that they've got spirit, don't they? Yeah,
I mean, like I said at the beginning, there's a lot of myths and misconceptions about all this out there. There's a lot of idiocy. So because there's so much on the movies and so much on video games and also apps, because we got here, where did I see it? Dylan Watson said, do you believe these ghost finding apps are legit?
No, I don't.
Nonsense.
I don't.
They will drop a picture into a scene and they're just silly. You can't find ghosts that way. You can't. I mean, I've spent years looking at and I wrote a column for Fate and Fortune magazine, and I think it ran, I don't know, it must have run 10 years or more. And each week I would look at ghost pictures and try to give an analysis of it. And if I'm honest, I can't think of one that I could say is an absolute proof. I think spirits connect through consciousness.
Yeah. And why must people always think ghosts come at night? Because they can come in the daytime. They don't have to just come at the evening, do they?
Good point. Yeah.
Why must they think it's got to be dark, misty, foggy, and they only come because it's cold?
And why spooky places?
Yeah.
You know, why can't ghosts appear in the most ordinary? In fact, hospitals are interesting because I should imagine that's a place where a lot of people die.
Yeah, they have.
And there's a lot of residual
when
energy.
I was a nurse at a children's hospital, they used to say, don't look at that window, because it was an old vicarage, because it's haunted, and if you look, there's going to be a death on the ward and a bird would come through the window. So every time the nurses saw a bird come through the window, they would tear down the other end of the ward.
You'll like this one.
Will I?
Yeah, Paul J. Newman. I thought it might have been Alfred J. Newman.
He likes my scarf.
I love your scarf, Jane. It's very springy.
Yeah, springy.
I suggested that Jane should do a little piece on here each day, because we're all stuck indoors at the moment, aren't we, with this thing? And she should dress up and say, we're going to dress up today. I'm going to put this clothes on with filmer getting ready and all the rest of it. And I'm going to the front room or I'm going to the downstairs loo.
I haven't got many clothes, Craig.
Yeah, make a good little sequence. Okay, where we got to? Julia says, have you any advice on how someone could train to see spirits?
We'll sit in a circle.
We kind of covered that.
Yeah, we've done that.
Again, you know, I mean, people think, oh, we'll sit around the Ouija board and we'll connect the spirit world. And really, in order to connect to the spirit world, you've got to first of all have the gift. You've got to be born with it. And then you've got to have that gift trained and developed. And then you've got to also learn to use that gift wisely. And then you've got to practice to prove to yourself and to other people that what you say can be proven.
Yes, evidence.
And it's not about intuition. It's not about guesswork or just thoughts and things like that, or making things fit. You've got to get to a point where you can give real solid proof. And that usually starts in a circle. And for me, it started with training with things like psychometry to begin with, so you can learn to pick up a vibration. Then developing that to start picking up a vibration from a person, sort of working with their aura and working on a psychic level. And then eventually being able to give a spirit message in a constructive way. So you know who the communicator is and give evidence of the person and the message from that person. And then be able to put it in such a way that you can give really, really good proofs. And that's how you do it. And I would say 7 years in circle for the most.
That's right.
15 years on the platform.
That's right.
Okay, so that's if you got it in the first place too. Where we got to? Someone's just donated £19.99. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. Oh, thank you very much. In fact, thank you for all those that are supporting this channel like that. That's very kind of you. We've had a lot of donations come in, and it's helping us to begin to well, once we can get out the house, we're able to start doing a bit more interesting ones. And I hope some of you are watching today's video that went live of some of the time in India, and you'll see on there some of the work we did doing kind of a what we call a homa, a fire ritual that was done simultaneously as the man that we raised the money for to go into a heart swap, what they call it. They had to have his valves put around the other way or something. He was having that operation as that ritual was going on. So it was good energy
and he came
going
through
out.
it.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's perfectly all right now. He seems to be okay. Hopefully he's safe from the virus, but yeah, he's there. He's at the hospital and he's doing well. So that's all thanks to people like you, and I really do thank you doing that type of thing. It's a really, really appreciated.
Thank you.
Okay, Lisa Parr, do you think we can meet spirit in out-of-body experiences? That's a good question. What do you think?
Well, it depends on the person, doesn't it? Because if you come out of your body and you're looking from the ceiling downward, so it's your consciousness, isn't it, that's still there. I would say nothing's impossible.
No, I mean, a near-death experience, you are near death, and there's obviously the cases in all the books by all the various, I won't quote them all, but the various doctors have written about
Moody.
that. Yeah,
Moody.
Raymond Moody's a very good one. Yeah, they people go to the spirit world, meet people, and told time to come back. You know, and you're not your time yet. An out-of-body experience is a very similar thing. If you have a genuine, full-on out-of-body experience, yes, why not? And why not also through dreams? Because you know, a medium is connecting through our unconscious mind, our non-rational mind. We connect with the spirit world. It's a blending of thoughts, as we talked about at the beginning. And if our minds are in the right sort of frame, then our thoughts will connect. And in the dream state, we're not censoring stuff. We're not saying, "Oh, that can't be true. That can't be true." We're open. So it means that the spirit world can connect through dreams as well. But we have to, of course, determine which is a dream and which is our own unconscious thoughts or fears often. But we're talking there about spirits. We're talking there about afterlife.
We're talking about ghosts.
And the theme is kind of ghosts in many ways. But kind of hopefully you're getting an idea of the difference between what a ghost and a spirit is. A spirit exists in the spirit world. A ghost, I believe, still is a residue of some energy that's here.
Yes, energy.
So, shall I read another one? Derek McIntyre. Does a big aura attract ghosts? Everywhere I go, I have people, mostly babies, staring. I get monkeys, actually. Mostly babies staring me down, no matter where I go. My family and friends notice this. I have a major deja vu all the time, and I keep seeing 13.
Well, 13 is meant to be a very mystical number because the Sikhs do everything on a 13. It's meant to be lucky 13. Wasn't lucky for Christ, though, was it?
He had 12 disciples, and he was the 13th.
Yes.
That's where the unlucky thing came from 30. But I've always think 13's been a lucky number for me as well, actually, because I found money comes with 13.
His aura, it probably because children, babies and young children, their thoughts are pure and the perceptions are pure, so they probably do see his aura, and they probably see a sparkling aura around his etheric body.
Yeah, I think if your aura's open and you're a good energetic person, you will naturally attract people, you know. I mean, I used to find if I'd been to doing a spiritualist church and on the way home I'd stop I stop at a garage or something, even though I was not trying to communicate with people, I found people always wanted to talk to you. You know, they seem to want to know you, you know, and it's because my aura's open, the energy's open, and I think it attracts people into that open field, and they want to communicate with you. So the only thing I would say, Derek, with that, if you have, it's not necessarily always a big aura. It might be the case that your aura is very open,
right?
Okay, and sometimes if our aura is open all the time, as it were, expanding too much and not kind of kept in its normal field, because your aura expands when you open to spirit, you see, and then we connect, and the aura, you can get very drained. Well, that's all I would say. Pick up people's negative energy.
He's probably got a very positive energy as well.
Yeah, but it can tire you out, and it wouldn't surprise me, Derek, that you get very tired. I have got a video up on there about how to open and close the aura, and I'm going to be putting an audio thing on the Patron's website soon, actually, so that you can listen to a meditation tape I've done about opening and closing the aura, and I'll be doing some lessons on that, probably for the Patron section, because I'm going to do some teaching for smaller groups like this.
And I'll do a healing meditation.
Yeah, and that will be mainly for the patrons, but they'll become public in time as well. Okay, what have we got?
How many lives do we live?
Yeah, Ken and Michelle Shelton, how many lives do we live? A bit off topic, but...
well, it depends on your past lives, doesn't it, really, how many lives? And there again, you've got to have proof with that. If you don't learn your lessons while you're here, you come back again and again.
I would imagine that we probably live...
About 9.
No, thousands. Because I understand things that we evolve from the animal to the human form. You know, we don't have a first life as a human being. I tend to believe the Eastern idea, and what was also the Greek idea of metempsychosis. Yeah, that the idea that you go up the ladder gradually, and the Chinese believe it.
You come back as an animal. If you weren't a good person, you'll go back as a pig. That's what they believe.
Well, they say you can't go back down. You can only keep going up. But we gradually evolve, and it would make sense to me that as consciousness evolves, it finds a different physical vehicle each time it incarnates to learn the next lessons. And we probably all started off as dinosaurs, or right back further still to Ammonites.
Doesn't necessarily mean because you're a man in this life, you've always been a man. You could have been a woman in the past life.
50-50, they say in India. Yeah, 50-50, that you don't always... but you do, as you gradually evolve, you begin to finally get to a form where one particular gender becomes more dominant to you, actually, as the soul progresses and needs less to incarnate. Halley 5. Halley 50.
High five.
High 50. Okay.
High five.
I went to a palm reader once, and she was spot on about my future. Do palm readers have connections with spirits?
Not necessary.
Well, they might do. I mean, I've done palm reading before for people. And what I used to do is read the palm, because the person, and then you read the palm and people like that interpretation. And then I then say something, and while I'm talking to you, would you understand? And I'd give something mediumistic to them. And reading the palm, I used to find, would sort of relax them. They'd become less armored. They were interested in the palm. You're telling them all things that are very basic things about their life, which the palms do. They're very good, the palms. You can read a hell of a lot from it.
Indians are good at that.
But then also linked in with a bit of mediumship. So she could be. But palmists generally interpret the lines of the hand. They might not have any clairvoyance whatsoever. It's like a tarot reader. Doesn't have to have any clairvoyant understanding whatsoever. It's an intuitive reading of things. Similarly with astrology and with the hands, they're interpretive gifts. But sometimes they also have psychic gifts as well. And that's when it gets really interesting, because then not only are they using the palm or an oracle as their foundation, but they're able to use that as a stepping off point. Anything you want to add to that, Jane?
Not really. I think you've said it all.
So Julia Graham, very new awakening. What does the circle mean?
Oh, that's developing circle, I think she means.
Any thoughts?
Well, you've said it.
Well, I've kind of talked about, if you mean a development circle, Julia, we've kind of covered that, haven't we? Because that's okay. So we just got another one donated, another $9.99. Thank you again. Do palm read, and by the way, donations are going partly to helping developing the channel, but also for our spiritual work and also for a lot of the charitable work we're doing. And again, I'll remind you, have a look at some of the things that we've just been putting up recently of India. So Alex Goya, so you're saying the ghost reality TV shows are fake?
You answer that. No comment from me.
No comment from you. Not all of them. Not everybody. Obviously,
I think there's good people out there really doing good work. I mean, there's I quite like watching Taps, American.
I think they're fun, and
I like watching.
And I think
Taps.
some of them might be true. And I don't, to be honest, I don't watch all of them because I don't like them much, because they irritate me. But I mean, that doesn't mean to say that they all are. No, I think there's an awful lot of fakery going on, and not just on the ghost programs. I'm afraid there's some big name fakes out there, and there have been some in the past too, who have now passed over. But I mean, we've always just got to be, we've got to be cautious about all of it, and even be cautious about us too, because you've got to be cautious about it. You've got to ask the right questions, and you can only know if it's true ultimately if you get a personal message yourself. So go to see a medium, go to visit a spiritualist church, investigate. Don't just expect to have it all handed on a plate. Here's proof of life after death. It's something you have to seek. And if you seek it and seek the knowledge, you will find the answers you need. So, yeah, there are, but you've got to be cautious too, because nowadays, I mean, when we started, we didn't tell people we were mediums a lot of the time. I used to have to keep it secret because I was running an advertising agency. I didn't dare let anybody know that I was doing it. And I used to go to London to do the spiritualist churches there because locally to me, I didn't want people to know that I was a medium. Now every Tom, Dick and Harry's a medium, and everybody's charging money for it, because Jane and I did it for years without charging a penny. I used to do it for spiritualist churches, and you get your expenses, which never covered the petrol. And Jane used to have queues of people coming to see her, and she never charged for years. Would those same people do that now? No. So you have to be a bit cautious, particularly when there's media involved and there's opportunities for people to make a lot of money. Not that I'm saying people shouldn't earn money. Of course, you've got to make a living, because we're professionals now. So we charge, and we charge a reasonably good high fee too, because, you know, we're doing it as a professional. But nonetheless, you know, you have to do your groundwork for nothing, I think.
This is an interesting one. Elizabeth, can a ghost influence, not possess, a living person? For example, if that ghost has been an alcoholic, could he influence the person in that way? I don't think so. Yeah.
So you're saying that could an alcoholic, for example, be that way because they sort of possessed by a demonic spirit?
No, not just saying that. Can a ghost influence, not possessed, so not demonic, a living person? For example, if that ghost has been an alcoholic, could influence the person that way? Not necessary, because if he went over to the spirit world, he would go to the halls of learning, and he would have to change.
Yeah, he? I mean, we're all influenced by the people that we surround ourselves with.
On the earth.
You know, if you're an alcoholic, you surround yourself with people. You go to the pub and surround yourself with other people that drink heavily, you'll stay an alcoholic. But if you what we want to be, we have to surround ourselves with the right people in life, don't we? So
good values.
Surround yourself with good people. So if you want to be an artist, surround yourself with artists. You know, if you want to be a musician, mix with musicians. It will rub off. But I don't know whether the same could apply if a spirit is around you and that energy would rub off, because I think the earthly vibrations and influences are far, far stronger in our field than the spiritual ones, because we're working through our five senses. So I don't think it would have a strong effect to the degree I think you think.
That's why, excuse me, people get influenced by Ouija boards, and they think that if somebody's gone over, so a ghost or someone's gone over and they were an alcoholic, it's going to make them influence them with alcohol and drugs. I don't think so.
No, and also when the person goes to the spirit world, they shed their bodies. So they're not going to have the same addictions. They go into their spirit state, and their spirit state will also imply an awakening to their true self and their previous incarnations, and an understanding of who you really are and what your point and purpose in life is. So, you know, you wouldn't be locked into that alcoholic frame of mind in the spirit world indefinitely. So let's have a look. This may sound stupid, but are you guys approached by people who have recently passed from this pandemic?
No, not at the moment. We've been under isolation.
Yeah, no. I mean, we wouldn't have spirits coming to us and tapping us on the shoulder saying, "Oh, I've just died in the pandemic. Here's a message for you, Craig." The messages would come when we are doing a reading for somebody. And we haven't had anybody come for readings where we picked up on pandemics yet. We've had 9/11 in the past and things like that, but that was, you know, giving proof of people that had died in those circumstances, but not anything from this pandemic. So not at the moment. So what's it? Hi, Craig and Jane. Is it good and possible to learn to shield you from the influence of a ghost in your vicinity? So he's talking about psychic protection.
Well, yeah, some people smudge, don't they, in the corner and stuff, and they put a bowl of salt water in corners and things. But nothing's going to harm you. It's only when you've got fear in your subconscious mind and you're looking for these things. So you've got to have positive energy.
Well, I wrote a whole book called Psychic Protection, and I was asked to write it by my publisher at the time. So it wasn't normally a book I would have chosen to written, but it was interesting because I went into the psychic protection ideas that are in things like voodoo and all the rest of it, and all the magical things and things like this. But ultimately, my conclusion was that dark cannot penetrate light. So if you're in a state of luminance, if your motives are good, if you're a bright soul, then nothing's going to harm you. And it's as simple as that. and you can be completely fearless because nothing can get through to you. So if you cast the darkness, as it were, out of yourself, your negative thinking, your fear, and all the rest of it, that's you're protected, you know. So that's is why in a circle, when you're trained mediums, we're often working with the idea of the light of the aura, of cleansing the body through with light after we've worked mediumistically, filling the spirit body with light. There's all these techniques that mediums use to not only enhance their ability to communicate with the spirit world, but also that acts as a natural protection, as well, of course, as your spirit guides and helpers over there as well, and all those that love you in the spirit side that would have been in your family. Nothing could get through. I'll tell you, no one could get past my nan, for example.
Right, this is interesting. When you open your spiritual centre in the future, could you have a little camping field for visitors who's travelled from afar? We could sit around a campfire sharing stories, making new friends. Have you ever seen a soul leave a body? Yes, I have.
But let's just answer the first one first, because that's on a different
person.
Is it? Friends, good idea. That's the next one.
Oh, sorry.
So just to answer Lisa's thing, that's a nice idea, Lisa.
Yeah,
well, obviously we're hoping to. We did talk about yurts and things like that. But I think initially we're going to keep it simple. It would be a cyber centre, not cyber.
Cyber centre?
No, cyber online. I mean,
I was going to say, what kind of place are you taking me?
Yeah.
No, I'm going to have a real centre.
Yeah, but first it will start to be online, because we can have a simple place for that. But then we hope to expand it bigger. And I would personally, first of all, I would like to have it where there's a lot of hotels nearby, so we don't have to do all that. We don't want to be hoteliers. That's my opinion.
Well, he's got his view.
But if it had grounds, I've got no problems with that. Jane watches too much of this chateau program.
Well, I could buy a chateau.
We don't want keep it simple, I say, and focus on the teachings.
I'd make it a spiritual centre.
But anyway, we'll discuss that later between ourselves. Right. What about seeing ghosts in your third eye? That's from Debbie in Sweden. Oh, my cough's still. Sorry, folks. It's not the virus, I warn you.
It's just an irritating cough.
Just an irritating cough that I've had for a long time.
From years of smoking in the past.
When I suppose the third eye, the third eye is the pineal gland in the middle of the brain, and
pituitary.
Yeah, by the pituitary, and that is where the center of our clairvoyance comes from. I suppose one could see it in your spiritual vision. Yes. I think that's too big a question actually to answer in a short answer, because I'd have to give you a whole talk about third eye and how it works and our opinions about that and things. So, okay. So shall I read the next one?
Yes. It's this one. Yeah.
When you open your spiritual center, that's done that. That's the next one. Okay, spooky Chris or something. This is. Have you ever seen a soul leave a body? My mum's seen it happen in hospital, and I've seen a cat leave just after being hit. Just curious if either of you have ever seen this.
Well, I have. When my stepfather died, I actually saw his spirit leave the top of his crown chakra, and it was the outline of his body. It was in like a green fluorescent light and gold, and it was absolutely the whole outline of his body, and it suddenly went through the ceiling. Now you think about it, when a baby's born, that fontan of that crown has opened and then it closes. So on time of death, that opens again and the spirit goes through.
Yeah. I remember after that happened. You were
and
really
William,
amazed by
William. We had a little dachshund dog, William, and I used to take him everywhere with me. Anyway, he passed into spirit, and one night I wanted, you all know what it's like, you want to go to the toilet, but you're laying there and think, no, go to sleep. And I went to the toilet, came back, and I actually saw William from the spirit world, and he looked quite young looking. So I woke Craig up, I said, William's here. He said, that bloody dog.
Won't leave me alone. No, he was my nemesis. I tell you, he didn't like me. Spoilt he was. But he was actually. I don't want to send negative thoughts to you, William. As I climb the ladder to heaven, he'll be up there and he'll poop all over me.
Yeah, karma.
But yeah, I mean, all recently we lost the cat, didn't we, too? And you
Yeah,
can
and I
actually,
felt the cat coming in
yeah,
tonight.
I've felt her around sometimes too. So the animals, like the humans, they are around us, and when we open up to them, we do feel them near us. The other one, the next one says, my child tells me he sees lights in his room, red and green. Should I be worried?
No, because the first thing when a baby's born, and I was told by a doctor friend, they see green and red. So he's obviously seeing energy.
Yeah.
Because green to me is peace. Red is a very physical form. And children don't usually lie.
Yeah. So that's why do you think those colours mean then?
Well, I think he might be a gifted child. When he's seeing all, I think he's very gifted.
Okay. Oh, I see another one. C Profits has just donated $10. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, it's good of you doing that as we're doing this. I didn't expect that, actually. Didn't expect it. Very kind of you. Thank you very much. Nicola Farts Rainbow at the enemies. Well, that's a great username. Can ghosts and spirits from you have shared a past life with follow a person into the next life if they haven't been reincarnated?
Never heard that one.
Can a spirit follow you into the next? Well, we all follow each other. Spirits, we follow each other because our souls interconnect, and when we go to the spirit worlds, we'll all be there together. Because I think we have what I would call a group soul. That we're connected.
Yeah,
we're connected. And that comes in families, and it comes in with friends, and it comes in all the people where you've got an immediate knowledge that they're your friend, and so we follow each other into the next life, and we follow ourselves back into the next incarnation. So I don't know if that answers the question.
Right. This is from Monitor.
And okay, so so we've got a couple more donations there to come in. DB donated €2. Thank you very much. That's very kind. And VGF donated $5 We've got people all over the world. People have been asking about predictions. We're not going to keep that in this particular video. We're going to keep to a theme each time. And I think sometimes the predictions lead us all onto the crisis that's happening at the moment. And I think it's nice sometimes just to have a break from all that, so we talk about ghosts instead.
Yeah, nice ghost.
And so we will come back to those things later on in other videos. But at the moment, this is a ghost type conversation, which I think is hopefully you're finding interesting.
Ordinarily nice of us, isn't it, Craig?
Right. Okay, we spoke about the spirit of Sun Yat-sen. Okay, that's not really, I think, for this one.
No, that's not for ghosts.
Yeah. So this is going to be the last question now. Okay. So Harish Prakash says, past life and ghosts, are they connected? Past life and ghosts, are they connected? Not quite sure. I know what he means by that. Do you?
No.
Because I think I can't answer that. Well, that's kind of a difficult one to.
Well, there again, you've got to have proof and evidence, haven't you? Even past lives, because I've met so many so-called Anne Boleyns and Henry VIII.
Yeah, we were saying about this the other day, weren't we?
And ghosts are the energy form of people that have been here and pass. So why would they stay on the earth plane in the material world if they were a ghost? Is it unfinished business?
Yeah.
And I don't think so. I remember my grandmother, she was in service and she heard a baby crying, and she went into this great big room, and there was a cradle, wooden cradle, Victorian one, rocking backwards and forwards. And when she peered into the cradle, there was no child there whatsoever. And apparently there had been a child that had died there. So that proves to me that ghosts do exist. And perhaps that's a cry for help. And the mother couldn't let go in that time. And that room was for that child. So that child's vibration was there.
Yeah.
You understand where I'm going?
Okay, well, we're going to come to a conclusion in a moment now, because we're doing something on reincarnation. That would be a nice one. So we'll pick up on this, and we'll so you can ask us questions about reincarnation. Now, if you're following this, don't forget, if you might have seen this video not live, don't forget, if you subscribe to this channel and you click the little bell thing at the bottom of the screen, it means you'll get updates and you'll know when we're going live. You'll get an announcement, so you can know when Jane and I are on. And sometimes I set these up in advance, so you might even get a notification the day before. But you need to click that little bell thingy to do that. And so we'll have another live one coming up soon. And don't forget, if you become a patron, you can watch special episodes that we're going to have up there for patrons. We're going to have we put new clips up and things, and we'll have a few live ones just for patrons. Actually, I'm trying to sort out how to do that at the moment. There's a little bit, a bit of a problem I had with it. But so if you become a patron of the channel, you can $3 or something like that it costs to become a patron. You'll be able to see much more of this and have a bit more interconnection with Jane and myself as well. And also, you know, on our website, go and have a look at our website at some point. We've got live readers on there where you can call a reader today and call a reader right now, if you like, from any country in the world.
And we will one day give you a virtual tour of our spiritual rooms and temples.
Yeah. Yes, well, we've got lots of stuff planned, but it's really nice to see you all again. Thank you for so much of your support. Thank you for all the kind comments you give. It's really nice. Don't forget, leave some comments as well after this video is finished, because it's always nice to see the comments and pick up on other ideas. So when you come back to this video and have another look at it, you can leave a comment on there and we'll pick it up for other ideas for doing some of these live things. But we're going to go now. Bye for now.
Good night.
Namaste.